Hello, citizens of the Republic of Korea. Dear overseas compatriots, how are you? Dear listeners, thank you for visiting and listening to our YouTube channel today. Today's topic is 문재인, 윤석열, and 한동훈 attempted to dismantle Samsung Electronics and hand over Samsung's cutting-edge technology and market to Chinese company. This is Choi Soo-young from the Indo-Pacific Strategy Institute. I would appreciate it if you could forward this letter to President Donald J. Trump and his staff. I am a former case officer of the National Intelligence Service of the Republic of Korea, and I was a secret agent who mainly dealt with North Korean and Chinese affairs on the ground. I graduated from the Department of Chinese Language and Literature at Seoul National University and received a master's degree in Chinese simultaneous interpretation from the Graduate School of Interpretation and Translation at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies, and mainly worked in China and Asia and America regions. During the MoonJae-in administrations, Yoon Suk-yeol and Handong-hoon, who were Moon Jae-in's bodyguards, plotted to dismantle Samsung Electronics and hand over Samsung Electronics' cutting-edge technology and the markets it held around the world to Chinese companies. During the Moon Jae-in administration, prosecutors Yoon Suk-yeol and Han-dong-hoon indicted President Park Geun-hye, Samsung Chairman Lee Jae-yong, and Supreme Court Chief Justice Yang Seung-tae on dozens of charges starting in 2017 and imprisoned them. The four charges that prosecutors Yoon Suk-yeol and Han-dong-hoon applied to President Park Geun-hye for receiving bribes from Samsung were charges that do not even exist in the law, and Yoon Suk-yeol and Han-dong-hoon indicted President Park Geun-hye on bribery charges and sought a 30-year prison sentence. In the process, the tablet PC presented as evidence was manipulated as evidence, but the prosecution adopted it, and President Park Geun-hye was ultimately sentenced to 20 years in prison and a fine of 18 billion won. As a result, President Park Geun-hye lived in prison for 4 years and 9 months and was released by the Moon Jae-in administration on December 24, 2021. However, it was later revealed that all charges against President Park Geun-hye, including bribery, were not true. It was also later revealed that the tablet PCs that had been used as evidence were all fabricated, but Yoon Suk-yeol and Han-dong-hoon did not apologize even once. And the prosecutors Yoon Suk-yeol and Han-dong-hoon indicted Supreme Court Chief Justice Yang Seung-tae and others on 47 charges and detained them while the first trial was in progress, but they were found not guilty on all 47 charges in the first trial. As a result of this incident, the South Korean judicial system was completely paralyzed, with the Supreme Court justices and staff members appointed by President Park Geun-hye being arrested one after another, and MoonJae-in, who was a spy for North Korea and China, was able to take control of both the prosecution and the judiciary in South Korea. On January 26, 2024, when the first trial found Chief Justice Yang Seung-tae not guilty of all 47 charges, Yoon Suk-yeol and Han-dong-hoon appealed again, mobilizing their connections in the prosecution service, and the second trial is still in progress. Prosecutor General Yoon Suk-yeol and Chief Prosecutor Han-dong-hoon arrested Samsung Electronics Chairman Lee Jae-yong for 2 years and 6 months on various charges, and indicted him on 19 more charges, but he was found not guilty on all 19 charges in the first trial. Then in February 2024, when Han-dong-hoon was the Minister of Justice, the prosecution appealed, and on November 25, 2024, the prosecution sought a 5-year prison sentence for Samsung Electronics Chairman Lee Jae-yong. Samsung Electronics Chairman Lee Jae-yong has been dragged to court by prosecutors Yoon Suk-yeol and Han-dong-hoon for the past 9 years, which has prevented him from properly managing Samsung Electronics and making proper investments, which has had a major negative impact on the South Korean economy, including the sharp decline in Samsung Electronics stock price. While Moon Jae-in, who was a spy for China and North Korea, was pushing forward with the dismantling of Samsung Electronics with prosecutor Yoon Suk-yeol and Han-dong-hoon at the forefront. Americans who held stocks in Samsung Electronics suffered huge investment losses. Moon Jae-in and Yoon Suk-yeol and Han-dong-hoon have been persistently dragging Samsung Electronics Chairman Lee Jae-yong to court for the past 9 years, pressuring him to invest in China, and Moon Jae-in in particular pressured him to send money to North Korea. If Samsung Electronics goes bankrupt, all of its cutting-edge semiconductor technology and various electronic technologies will go to China's Huawei, Xiaomi, etc. And these technologies will be used to improve China's various missile, fighter, jet, ships, submarine, etc. Also, if Samsung Electronics goes bankrupt, all of the overseas market and Samsung Electronics head will be taken over by China's Huawei and Xiaomi. Yoon Suk-yeol and Han-dong-hoon are cleverly using the law to dismantle Samsung Electronics in order to legally provide advanced technology and astronomical amounts of dollars to Chinese companies. The party that the real benefits the most is none other than the Chinese the Communist Party. The method by which prosecutors Yoon Suk-yeol and Han-dong-hoon framed and arrested President Park Geun-hye, Samsung Chairman Lee Jae-yong, and Supreme Court Chief Justice Yang Seung-tae under the MoonJae-in administration was passed on to the Democratic Party in the United States, and prosecutors appointed by President Biden used it to judicially attack and harass President Donald J. Trump. President Donald J. Trump has been dragged to court for years on various false charges, and President Park Geun-hye, Supreme Court Chief Justice Yang Seung-tae, and Samsung Electronics Chairman Lee Jae-yong have suffered the same, and their harassment is still ongoing. In addition, various election fraud techniques used in Korea were transferred to the Democratic Party in the United States of America and were used in their entirety in the 2020 and the 2024 United States presidential elections. The characteristics of the fraud election that occurred in Korea were also directly reflected in the United States presidential election process. In order for President Donald J. Trump to investigate the cases of election fraud in the United States, he must investigate the various cases of election fraud that occurred in Korea. It is estimated that the South Korean government's budget that disappeared during the 5 years of the Moon-Jae-in administration is around 400 to 500 trillion won, approximately 360 to 450 billion dollars. And a significant portion of that money was transferred to the United States Democratic Party and used to rig the United States presidential election. Therefore, President Donald J. Trump should pressure the South Korean government to thoroughly investigate the evidence of election fraud that occurred in South Korea. However, President Yoon Suk-yeol will never initiate an investigation to protect Moon Jae-in because he was Moon Jae-in's bodyguard. President Yoon Suk-yeol is the main culprit who is thoroughly preventing Moon Jae-in from investigating the USB containing state secret to Kim Jong-un. The current awakened Korean people are evaluating President Yoon Suk-yeol as collaborators of China, but his words and actions are completely inconsistent. Even when martial law was declared on December 3rd, there was no thought of arresting or investigating Moon Jae-in. Everything President Yoon Suk-yeol had said to the people so far is being revealed as a lie. President Yoon Suk-yeol is the Biden of Korea and avatar of Moon Jae-in. The Yoon Suk-yeol administration's plans to legally provide financial support to China by importing $90 billion worth of Chinese offshore wind power equipment by 2030 and installing it on South Korea's west coast. Separately, the Yoon administration plans to arrest Chairman Lee Jae-yong and bankrupt Samsung Electronics, thereby legally handing over Samsung Electronics' advanced and cutting-edge technology and overseas market to Chinese companies. According to news reported by the media outlet The News Investigation, 한동훈's brother-in-law, Park Hyung-sang, he runs a semiconductor equipment company called ISAC. This company established a cooperative relationship with Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix and received semiconductor-related technology transferred between 2017 and 2019. When prosecutor HanDong-hoon was investigating Samsung Electronics chairman Lee Jae-yong. Chairman Lee Jae-yong has been summoned and investigated by the National Assembly and the prosecution since the time when President Park Geun-hye was impeached, and prosecutors Yoon Suk-yeol, Han-dong-hoon, and Song Kyung-ho began investigating Samsung chairman Lee Jae-yong in November 2018. ISAC Research, a semiconductor equipment company run by Han-dong-hoon's brother-in-law, was reported by the media have participated in a local Chinese partner project to localize ALD. ALD means the atom layer deposition equipment at the Hilton Hotel in Shenzhen, Guangdong Province, China on October 16, 2018. ISAC Research established a joint venture with a Chinese company and participated in a project to import semiconductor ALD, atom layer deposition, equipment-related products and technology from Korea to China, thereby increasing the domestic production rate of Chinese semiconductor equipment. Accordingly, many Koreans suspect that advanced semiconductor technology from Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix may have leaked to China through ISAC Research, run by Park Hyung-sang, the brother-in-law of prosecutor Han-dong-hoon. Prosecutor Han-dong-hoon has been persistently attacking Samsung chairman Lee Jae-yong by dragging him to court for the past 9 years. At the time, prosecutor Han-dong-hoon was the leader of the People Power Party, the current ruling party in South Korea. Many of Han-dong-hoon's in-laws are fellows of socialism and communism, and Han-dong-hoon's father-in-law, Jin Hyung-gu, served as a prosecutor in the Public Security Department of the Supreme Prosecutor's Office in South Korea, where he was in charge of catching spies, espionages. However, in December 2002, while he was a lawyer attorney, he suddenly began publishing a weekly magazine specializing in China. The magazine name is China Life. This magazine introduces the overall Chinese society, including economy, society, and culture, to Korean companies and students entering China. This magazine has partnered with Chinese Communist Party's official newspaper, The People's Daily, to receive news and provide Korean language services. It is clear that the HanDong-hoon's in-law have had a deep relationship with the Chinese Communist Party since 2002. When Handong-hoon became the leader of the People Power Party, he appointed a chief of staff and the father-in-law of the chief of staff, that is Kim Hyung-dong. He was a senior member of the Chinese Communist Party. And it was reported by the Korean media that Kim Hyung-dong had very, very deep connections with domestic communist forces. Many citizens have demanded that Handong-hoon replace his chief of staff, but Handong-hoon has ignored this and has not yet replaced his chief of staff. Therefore, many Koreans suspect that Handong-hoon, the leader of the People Power Party, is a Chinese Trojan horse or Chinese spy who was selected by the Chinese Communist Party a long time ago and planted in the prosecutions. On December 7, 2024, President Yoon Suk-yeol apologizes to the nation for the suddenly declaring martial law on December 3rd and announced that he would leave his fate entirely up to the People Power Party. This means that Handong-hoon, the leader of People Power Party, will exercise actual presidential authority, and President Yoon will serve out the remainder of his term as Handong-hoon's puppet. If Handong-hoon becomes the next president of South Korea will completely become a colony of China, and he will cleverly create a loophole in President Donald J. Trump's containment strategy against China. As Yoon Suk-yeol's wife, Kim Gun-hee, she revealed to the domestic media that Yoon Suk-yeol and Handong-hoon are MoonJae-in's loyal bodyguard, hunter dog. If Handong-hoon becomes president in the future, the MoonJae-in administration in Korea will be extended by another 5 years. And the Samsung Electronics will be dismantled, and its cutting-edge, very advanced technology and the global market it owned will go to Chinese companies such as Huawei and Xiaomi, and Samsung Electronics, the cutting-edge, very advanced semiconductor technology and electronic technology will be installed in the Chinese missile, fighter jets, ships, and submarine to attack the United States Navy and Air Force. In addition, many cutting-edge, very advanced technologies owned by Korean companies will be cleverly transferred to China, and Korea will end up becoming an economic colony of China, causing the United States to lose the war for hegemony with China. In addition, the $90 billion worth of Chinese offshore wind power equipment that the Yoon Suk-yeol administration has decided to introduce by 2030 will be imported as is, and a huge amount of dollars will flow into China. If Chinese offshore wind power equipment is installed on the West Sea, it will be difficult for the Korean and the United States Navy to operate in the West Sea of the Korea Peninsula. There is also a very high possibility that Chinese companies will install advanced sensors on the seabed to monitor U.S. Navy submarines. And if offshore wind power generation equipment is installed on the west coast of the Korea Peninsula, when Chinese troops land on the west coast on a fishing boat, the Korean Coast Guard and Navy will be blockaded by the offshore wind power generation equipment and will not be able to stop the landing of the Chinese troops. If the Chinese troops land on the west coast of the Korea Peninsula and install missiles, the Korean and US Navies and the Air Forces will be unable to operate on the west coast. If Yoon Suk-yeol administration import $90 billion worth of Chinese wind power equipment, Koreans have no idea how much rebates were exchanged between Chinese Communist Party company and the Yoon Suk-yeol administration during this process. The Yoon Suk-yeol administration is well aware of this fact, but is proceeding with it anyway, and in order to smoothly carry out this task, they appointed Kim Dae-gi, who served as President Yoon Suk-yeol's chief of staff, as ambassador to China. However, he does not speak Chinese. He cannot speak Chinese. Just as MoonJae-in handed over to North Korea a USB containing national secrets about the US and the South Korean militaries, many South Koreans suspect that President Yoon Suk-yeol is handing over to China all confidential information about the South Korea, United States, the combined forces, as he appointed his chief of staff, who cannot speak Chinese at all, as ambassador to China. President Donald J. Trump, you should demand that the South Korean government explain why President Yoon Suk-yeol sent his chief of staff, who cannot speak Chinese, to serve as an ambassador to China, and should thoroughly investigate how much confidential information from the United States and the South Korean militaries in Korea was leaked to China. In 2018, MoonJae-in administrations violated U.S. sanctions against North Korea by taking satellite broadcast vehicles, strategic materials to Pyongyang and then leaving it behind. President Yoon Suk-yeol has not investigated it at all for the past 2 years. In addition, there has been no investigation at all into the case of MoonJae-in sending money to North Korea. The MoonJae-in and Yoon Suk-yeol administrations are legally providing China with massive amounts of dollars while importing Chinese solar power generation equipment and wind power generation equipment. if HanDong-hoon, who has deep ties to the Chinese Communist Party, becomes the next president of Korea, the South Korea and the United States alliance will be cleverly weakened and many dollars and cutting-edge, very advanced technologies from Korea will flow to China. In 2022, when he was the Minister of Justice, HanDong-hoon visited the Southern District of New York to receive briefings and investigative materials on the case of Lee Jae-myung and the Korean politicians sending money to North Korea using the cryptocurrency, Ethereum. The Korean Ministry of Justice announced to the press that it would thoroughly investigate. But in the past 2 years, Minister of Justice HanDong-hoon has not conducted any investigation at all. Many Koreans deeply suspect that HanDong-hoon received cryptocurrency from Lee Jae-myung on the condition that he would not investigate Lee Jae-myung's cryptocurrency remittance to North Korea. The People Power Party, the current ruling party in Korea, went to Beijing, China in 2009 and signed a business exchange agreement with the Chinese Communist Party. Also, in 2015, the Yeouido Research Institute, a research institute that creates policies for the People Power Party, signed another business exchange agreement with the Chahal Institute, a foreign spy agency of the Chinese Communist Party. If you look closely at the contents of the two business exchange agreements they signed, the core of them is to cleverly neutralize the military alliance between Korea and the United States. Since 2009, politicians and party officials of the People Power Party have been traveling back and forth to Beijing, China, playing friendly soccer matches, and have had very deep exchanges with the Chinese Communist Party. So the People Power Party has long since been fallen to a Korean branch of the Chinese Communist Party. According, the People Power Party is very cleverly coming up with policies that make South Korea socialist or communist, and is also cleverly coming up with policies that neutralize the Korea-United States alliance. In order to become the leader of the People Power Party, one must have a very deep connection to the Chinese Communist Party, and the August 15, 2016, when the Chinese Communist Party's the press newspaper, the People's Daily issued an editorial ordering impeach President Park Geun-hye for allowing the deployment of the THAAD. People Power Party lawmakers followed the Chinese Communist Party's order and impeached President Park Geun-hye. The name of the Democratic Party of Korea, of which MoonJae-in was the party leader, was taken from Kim Il-sung's memoir With the Century, and the term people-centered that MoonJae-in shouted is a term that appears in Chapter 3 of the North Korea Socialist Constitutions. Therefore, the Democratic Party of Korea was a North Korean spy party, but in July 2019, it went to Beijing and signed a business exchange agreement with the Chinese Communist Party and was fallen to subordinate organization of the Chinese Communist Party. Currently, there are two branches of the Chinese Communist Party in Korea, and they take turns in pouring out socialist bills, communist bills, and pro-China policies. President Yoon Suk-yeol appointed Yoon Hee-gun as the Commissioner General of the Korean National Policy Agency early in his term. He graduated from the Korean National Policy University and went to China to obtain a master's degree in law from the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, a Chinese Communist Party spy training institute. And he was promoted 3 ranks in 7 months, and many Koreans suspect that information from the Korean police is being passed on to the Chinese Communist Party. If you look at the religion of Korean president since the Kim Dae-jung administrations, most of them were Roman Catholic. All 5 presidents, Kim Dae-jung, Roh Moo-hyun, Park Geun-hye, MoonJae-in, and Yoon Suk-yeol, were Roman Catholic, and the current presidential candidate, HanDong-hoon, is also Roman Catholic. In Korea, the activities of the Jesuit, the Roman Catholic Intelligence Agency, are very active, and the core group that led the movement against the Pyeongtaek United States military base, the movement against the Korea and United States FTA, and the movement against the construction of the Jeju Naval Base was the Catholic Priest Association for Justice, CPAJ, which is comprised of Catholic priests. This group is known to be a Jesuit organization directly affiliated with the Vatican, and they were also the most active in the impeachment of the President Park Geun-hye. They used Korean Roman Catholics to create a fan club for MoonJae-in, made him president, and then made them join the People Power Party to make Yoon Suk-yeol president, and then transformed them into Han-dong-hoon's fan club to make Han-dong-hoon the leader of the People Power Party. Since Roman Catholicism is the mother of European totalitarianism and communism, the Pope of Rome recognized the bishops recommended by the Chinese Communist Party as cardinals. The relationship between the Vatican and the Chinese Communist Party is very deep, and when a Roman Catholic becomes president in Korea, he focuses on pro-China policies. In Korea, the People Power Party and the Democratic Party of Korea have already been doubly co-opted by the Chinese Communist Party and the Roman Catholic Jesuit. If President Donald J. Trump plans to use Korea to dismantle China, he should dismantle the 2 political parties in Korea, create a new one, and support someone with strong ties to the United States to become the next president. Most of Korea's civic groups, religious groups, media, civil servants, and legal circles are under the control of the Chinese Communist Party, making it difficult to identify them. In particular, major Korean media outlets such as 조선일보, 동아일보, and 중앙일보 have very deep ties to China, and they currently support Han-dong-hoon and made him the leader of the People Power Party. They will also make him the next presidential candidate. On the other hand, MBC, another major broadcasting station, is completely controlled by KCTU executives who receives orders from North Korea, and many of the KCTU executives were recently arrested after being revealed to be North Korean spies. KCTU, Korean Confederation of Trade Unions. Currently, the media landscape in South Korea is comprised of pro-China and pro-North Korean media, and only a very small number of pro-American media outlets exist. As the Democratic Party of the United States has been in power for the past 20 years, South Korea has also been seriously contaminated by communists who follow the Chinese Communist Party and North Korea. The United States intelligence agency run by President Donald J. Trump in the future will have to have many assistants in South Korea and provide sufficient support. During the 8 years of the Clinton administrations, the 8 years of the Obama administrations, and the 4 years of the Biden administrations, the United States intelligence agencies neglected their activities in Korea, while the Chinese intelligence agencies spend astronomical amount of money on operations. Therefore, in order not to lose Korea, the United States intelligence agencies must also be active like the Chinese intelligence agencies. For example, MSS. If I were the director of the National Intelligence Service, I could destroy all of these cases mentioned above. But since I am currently a civilian, I cannot exert any influence. And the only way to do so is to inform our ally, Blood Alliance, the United States, and President Donald J. Trump. President Donald J. Trump. 6-5 warfare. During the Korean War, 1,789,000 American soldiers participated, and more than 130,000 young Americans were killed, injured, or went missing. They sacrificed and dedicated themselves to protect the freedom and human rights of the Republic of Korea. The American people also invested $68 billion to protect South Korea from the invasion of international communist powers such as Soviet Union, China, and North Korea. Most Koreans are always grateful for the favors that the Americans have given to Korea. However, the elites of South Korea have become slaves to money, and as a result, they have become slaves of the Chinese Communist Party. Even so, please do not abandon South Korea. There are many peoples alive in Korea who remember the kindness that the United States military gave to Koreans during the Korean War. The Korean people will not abandon the United States. We just have to treat Korean politicians and leaders very harshly. Most of the Korean political leaders and elite leaders who have taken money from China are sending their children to study abroad in the United States and hiding their assets in the United States. So please take away their assets and deport all of their children. Korean political leaders and elites have become slaves to money and slaves to the Chinese Communist Party. So, instead of treating them as people, you should whip them like an animal. Thank you for listening.